we're just going to be going over the basics of how the yellow box works today. And if you don't know what it is, it's this chart you see in front of you right now. We chart out every day for gold and then also on QQQ. But you can really chart it for any stock or futures, whatever you want to use it for. How it works, you go to the 7-wave 60-minute on fractals, again, for anything you're wanting to chart. So we'll just do QQQ right now. So 7-wave 60-minute, you're going to have 50 days to load. You're going to right click, go to option analyzer, then click this little drop down where it says normal, go to buy today's close, and you'll see this yellow box appear. Click this up in the top left and you can expand it. And then also make sure you have it set to current. If you have it set to pivot, you're going to be grabbing the wrong values. So always change it to current. So now you have this yellow box in front of you. What it is it's showing the most time spent. All these candles, these are all 1 hour candles on the 7-wave 60-minute. Notice how most of them stay within this yellow box. So this is where most of our time is spent. And then when we break out of it, we say, okay, when we break out of the yellow box, where do we reach on average? Now this was a strategy created by Milk. And what he would do is find the yellow box and then go here and decide what is considered average range. So when we break out, we'd say like right around here, we reach on average on QQQ, right? Like most candles reach here, obviously not all of them, but on average, we're going to reach this point. And then the idea becomes when we break out of this yellow box here, we are more likely going to hit average range than the opposite side of the yellow box, because again, when we break out of this is where we reach on average. You can kind of see how this played out on gold last week. You typically only play the first break and close. You can use the 5-minute or 15-minute. I think more people use the 15-minute close. And you also don't want to take it when there's a gap that has to be filled. So for example, there was a gap here at open on gold. And so you wouldn't take this break below the bottom yellow box. When we came up and filled this gap here, you can see we closed above the top yellow box. And then once that happens, the idea is we reach average range, so the start of this red zone, before the opposite side of the yellow box is hit. So you can see it did go into drawdown here, but until this bottom yellow box is tapped, the trade's still valid, right? And then you come up, you get that move to average range, and that would be considered a win. The win rate on it, let me see, Goose had some stats we can check out. On gold, actually no, this is on ES, I believe. So it's 81 out of 119. It's around a 68% win rate with an average RR of 1.2. So long term, it has proven to work out. There's also some spreadsheets I'll find the links for to send to you guys. I personally don't play these breakouts just because, like, as you can see, you're looking for 9 points here, and then on this yellow box, you have 17 points of risk. So on gold particularly, I don't play the strategy. It's a little bit better RR on ES, like Goose was explaining in the stats. But I like to use it as a confluence. So for example, we were long at 44 on this day here. We went long at 44 on the test of this vector down here. And when we broke above the top yellow box and closed above, it just gave us that much more confidence that we are going to reach average range, like you can see we did right here, before going to the opposite side of the yellow box. So rather than playing just the strategy alone, the breakout strategy, I use it as a confluence for my trades. Now, next up is all of these white dashed lines. So you'll see that we have top yellow box, bottom yellow box, and then our average range to each side, and then also the max range, which on this chart here is just the highest and lowest candle in each direction. So this would be max range on QQQ to the downside, and then this would be max range to the upside. Now, all these other white dashed lines, you can see there's a lot of them here, and then on QQQ there's a bit less. We'll go to that real quick. So there's a bit less on QQQ. But all these is candles that have also broke out of the yellow box, but isn't considered average range. So all of these are 1 hour candles that broke out, and you can see the highs or lows that they reach. So these are previous reversal points after breaking out of the yellow box. So what we can use that as potential support and resistance, because if we reverse there before, there's potentially we do it again. So what I'll do, once I say this is average range on QQQ here, well, actually, let me start charting this out. So I would start with the top and bottom of yellow box, which is these two values on the right hand side. You got 610.91 and 608.65. So that would be our yellow box values. And then we'd go in and say, okay, where's our average range at? So for QQQ, we decided right around here is where, on average, we can see most candles reach. And you'll also notice that if you look over here on the right-hand side, you can see this percent moving up and down where my cursor is right now. Average range, not always, but you're typically going to find it around 0.4%. Now, that's not going to be perfect. I'd still kind of go on more like an eyeball of where you see most of the candles reaching on this yellow box breakout. But I've found just from charting this over and over again, it's normally going to be around the 0.4%. So also, I didn't point this out, but the values we're looking at as you go up and down are going to be where my cursor is right now. So you'll notice these numbers changing as I go up and down. So we line it up here. Right there, I would call that average range. So that's going to be 612.31. Now I'd go ahead and chart out the max range. So you got about 618.67. Then I'll go in and chart all these other candles that have broken out of the yellow box, but they're not average range or max range. So we have some previous reversals right here. That's 611.58. And notice how you can see you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, around 6 previous reversals all lining up at this level here. And that is this white dash line you see between average range and top yellow box. And notice how right here we had a really nice bounce off of it, and then this one was a little early later in the day. Then I'll go back and say, okay, so that's average range. This right here, you can see we had a previous reversal on this candle, and then also over on this candle. So I'll grab that. That value is 613.26. Then we'll move it up a little bit, and you can see previous reversal on this candle here and also right here. Downside, I'm not going to point it out as much because you guys can kind of get the idea here, but this is 613.99. And then we'll go to the top of this candle, 616.18. And then last up, we'll go with like right around here. And sometimes like I may not chart the top of this candle and this candle. I'll just kind of go like right there, 617.13. And then we would do the same thing for downside. But the idea is, again, those are all previous reversal points after breaking out of the yellow box. And you'll notice that they do tend to play very well. So you had high day over here. You had this white dash line, got tested 2 different times for this rejection. You had a bounce here. This one overshot it just a little bit. But then again, bounced down at this white dash line. You had a rejection off average range, rejection here, bounce here, rejection. And you'll kind of notice throughout the day that they tend to play very well, and most reversals or bounces you see throughout the day will be at one of these white dash lines. Again, same thing here. You had a bounce at this white dash line, 2 bounces right here, another bounce here, a bounce here, bounce off average range. You get the idea. It plays well. Now, the problem is there's so many white dash lines on this chart. I'm never going to just long each white dash line because that wouldn't make sense, right? These are all previous reversals. So our job is then to find which one has the highest probability of working, and that's where I kind of come in and combine the gray box strategy, for example here, with the yellow box chart. So we have this white dash line here, again, marking out a previous reversal point outside of the yellow box. And then we also have our gray box, which is just, if you guys don't know that strategy, I'll send a video in the chat right after this call. But it's essentially just finding high probability reversal setups based off different fractal waves and time frames. So I then combine those strategies to find these reversal setups and just use these charts as a confluence for my trades. So let me see if there's any questions. Yeah, so any questions, let me know. It is pretty straightforward charting these. Again, you can do this on anything you like. You could do it on Tesla, Meta, Gold, ES, NQ, QQQ, SPY, whatever you'd like. And it's the same strategy for each one, or I guess setup. Now, on gold, the values are a little off right now. I don't know why. Going like from Friday into Monday, the values seem to get a little messed up. So I just have to, actually, I'll show you guys right now. Let's see. So again, you go to the 7-wave 60-minute option analyzer, drop this down by today's close. And you notice how there's a lot more candles kind of breaking out of each side, and that's why there's more white dash lines on the gold yellow box compared to QQQ. But back to what I was saying. So on Friday, you'll see that our close was 407 or 07.8. And on fractals, it's saying our pivot's 09.8. So it's not a huge difference, but this black line right here, 09.8, is supposed to be our pivot. So that's what I put in the middle of the yellow box. And this here is just marking out the previous day's close. So you'll see that we closed this candle here. Our pivot was also 90.4. So sometimes the values will get a little bit messed up on gold. So all I do is I subtract the difference. So our pivot should be 7.8. But Fractals is saying it's 9.8, so I would just go in and subtract that difference from whatever values I get. But I'll chart out gold tomorrow when the values do work, because it seems to work out perfectly fine all throughout the week. Just Friday going into Monday can be a little weird. So after market close tomorrow, I'll hop back in here and chart out gold, so people can see that if they'd like, and it kind of just be a refresher on what we're going over today. But with that said, let me finish up on the QQQ chart. And if you guys have any questions, let me know. So I'm just going to say it one more time again. 7-wave 60-minute option analyzer. Make sure you have current selected. And this is your yellow box. So we grabbed our yellow box values. We grabbed all the values to the upside. Now we'll just chart out max or average range to the downside, which will be right about here, I'd say. And then again, notice how our value over on the left-hand side is in that 0.4 area we talked about. So 607.26, then we'll get our max range, which is 599.4. Then you have all those previous reversals in between that are not max range or average range. So we'll chart out here 608.07. You got 606.74. $605.49. $604.47. And you can see you have this previous reversal on this candle and this candle here, the lows of both of them lining up at about 601.9. And then we'll grab our last one right here at 601.01. And then I'll mark out what our pivot is. So you can either look at current or just this black dash line or this black line in the middle. They'll be the same thing. Again, pivot is just yesterday's close. So I personally just write all these down on a piece of paper and I go over to Thinkorswim and chart them out, but you could do it however you'd like. That's just what I found to be fastest for me. But are there any questions on that? So I'll just take all those values, head over to Thinkorswim, and plug them in. And then at the end of it, you'll have something looking just like this. But is there any questions on that? How the strategy works, how to use it as a confluence for your trading, anything else, just let me know. But otherwise, I'll chart that out for QQQ. I'll also make gold and get those sent out before or right around futures market open. It's a pretty straightforward strategy and it's pretty simple to chart out. If you have access to fractals, again, you can chart it on anything. Any experience with yellow box for crude futures? We were making those for a little bit. We don't do it anymore, but they worked well. Especially like those white dash lines. I'd see not every day, but more often than not, they were catching like those highs and lows of each day. But then again, it just comes down to picking and choosing which ones you're going to take trades out. So that's where you kind of need to use the fractals as a confluence for it. But yeah, it does work well on that. From my experience, I haven't charted it on tons of different symbols, but everything I have done it on, like you'll see these white dash lines or average range, max range, whatever it may be, hold up very, very well. It's just kind of, again, finding which trades you're wanting to take based off of whatever the strategies you're using in Confluence. But yeah, if you have anything you want to try charting it on, feel free to do it. My personal ones that I've had experience charting with, I've done it on NQ, ES, Gold, QQQ Spy. I did it on Tesla for a little bit and Crude for a little bit. And all of them worked very well. I just don't trade them anymore, so I only do it on what I trade, which is QQQ and Gold. But if there are no more questions, I'm going to wrap it up and we'll get this video out so you guys can review it. But if you have questions on how to chart it after this is over, like you go in and try and do it on your own and something looks a little different, feel free to reach out and we'll make sure to get you all set so you can start making these on your own. Otherwise, have a good one, guys, and I will see you in Live Voice tomorrow.